I can't believe it's been 5 years. I really cannot. But I'm gonna let you know I never let down. Jamar Clark should have never died. Jamar Clark should be with us today. Jamar Clark's family should be with us today, with him today. Jamar Clark should be not only part of our community, but part of the thriving part of our community. As we walk today in remembrance of Jamar Clark, we also remember the lives of so many people who have been lost to police brutality. Many of the names that we may not know or not remember or never been televised. And we carry those people with us today. Jamar Clark was killed by Minneapolis Police Department. And at that time, both the chief and the mayor refused to acknowledge what we all saw. The brutality in the police department as it treats black men in this country and here in the city of Minneapolis. And so many people in Minneapolis woke up to Jamar Clark, and so many people of us joined this movement. And we thought for some reason that Jamar Clark was an anomaly, but he was not. He was a trend that we failed to realize in this state and in this city and this country. And if we would have done something about Jamar Clark's death, we would have saved Philando Castile, we would have saved George Floyd, but we failed to do that. And today, as we remember his life, and today as we fight for Jamar Clark, and we continue to fight for Jamar Clark and all the lost lives, we ask ourselves one question. And that question is, how can we save each other? How can we save each other? How can we save more people? It starts with opening our eyes to the injustice that is all around us. The injustice right here in North Minneapolis, the historical legacy of completely disfranchising the community, the people who live here. And on top of that, the policing that has occurred all over this country, and more evident, the way the policing happens here in the 3rd Precinct and here in North Minneapolis. People who don't care about this community wake up every single morning wearing a badge and drive through these neighborhoods. People who don't live in these neighborhoods show up to these neighborhoods and look at the people and the children of this neighborhood as people that they are threatened by. This is the reality. And trust me, there's not many episodes. There's been many episodes that have happened here, including the local media. And I give a little bit of props to Fox 9 and Tom Lighton for calling it out for what it is, that we never covered the stories. We only did drive-by journalism. And the reality is, that is what has been happening. But I'm telling you right now, they're trying to stop us. But they're not going to win. They're not going to win. They're not going to win because Jamar Clark was one of us. Because Philando Castile is one of us. And because George Floyd and many others are from our community. And we are only asking to dignify the human being, to save human beings, to treat people with dignity. We are the wealthiest nation in the world, and we yet fail to realize that our wealth can do so much good. Instead, what have we done? We have created a culture of violence. We have created systems of oppression. We have created systems that only drive oppression into our neighborhoods and in our communities. So I'm asking every single one of you as you came out here today, because there's a lot of people watching us right now, and you should be out here. You should be out here with us right now. Jamar Clark was a victim because we stood silent. Jamar Clark was a victim because we thought it was just one person. We came up with a lot of excuses. There's a lot of people in this city who followed the logic that Mike Freeman and others had. They came up with excuses, and they keep coming up with excuses. But I'm going to tell you something. We are no longer going backwards. We are no longer going to see and allow for the racist systems of this country and here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, to continue to do that. And I'm going to tell you something. We have voted, but that's not where it stops. We have voted, but that doesn't mean we even voted the right people in. That means that those people who've been voted in don't think you got a blank check from us. We are not stopping, and in fact, we are going to come for you to make sure you stand up for the people of this city, and specifically the black people of this city, who continue to do what is right. In fact, we saw how racist this election was, and once again, the black people in this country saved America. Once again, in Georgia, in the deep South, in places like Michigan and Milwaukee, places that have been forgotten, people who really should not vote because their vote has never resulted in anything positive for them. But they saved this country from the racist dictatorship of Donald Trump. And here in Minneapolis, just because you got voted in doesn't mean that we really believe that you are the right leadership. We're going to demand for new leadership. We're going to ask you to do what you have to do, whether you like it or not. So I'm telling you, Jamar Clark fired us up. Jamar Clark gave us life to think about justice in this country. Jamar Clark's death is not in vain. His life will exist. His name will exist. He will make a difference for people who are not born yet. We are going to save a generation that's not born yet, because Jamar Clark was killed in a torturous way by this Minneapolis Police Department. And for those officers who killed George Floyd, Philando Castile, and Jamar Clark, I want you to know today, we the people stand out here and we will march, we will demand justice every single day until you get fired, until you are no longer in positions of power, including the leader of the Minneapolis Federation, Bob Kroll, who is a racist cop. If Trump went, Bob Kroll's gotta go. That's what we believe. So I'm telling you, I want you to take a second right now. Just look around. The people around you. These are your brothers and sisters. These are the people in the movement who showed up today, who continue to show up. And whether they think they're going to arrest us on the bridge or not, I want every official who thinks about that to know one thing. We are going to get into some good trouble. That's right. We're going to get into some good trouble. In fact, there is never a movement that has made progress without people being arrested on the streets. We know that. And we also know that when we are bonded together in brotherhood and sisterhood for the common good, for dignifying human beings, that God is with us, and we will conquer any tyrant and march anywhere and find justice, because we believe we are on the right side, and we believe whether you are with us or against us, we will win. So today, for Jamar's family, for Jamar's community, we say to you, we see you, we believe you, and we stand with you, and we are not going anywhere, and we will demand justice by any means necessary.
Thank you. Up next we have Nikema Levy Armstrong.
Jaylani, you better not have COVID. How y'all doing out there? Man, it's crazy to me that it's been 5 years since Jamar Clark's life was senselessly taken by the Minneapolis Police Department. I know for me personally, it was a life-changing situation to see what happened to a young black man in my community. I had just moved to North Minneapolis 2 months before Jamar Clark was killed. And at the time, as NAACP president, I got a call from now Chief Arredondo, who was the assistant chief, letting me know that a young black man had been killed. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning. And I said to him, was he armed? And he said, I don't think so. I couldn't go back to sleep. I looked on social media. I started to see witness accounts on Facebook from people who had been out there at the time, and I was shocked to know that there were dozens of witnesses to Jamar Clark being killed. And what the witnesses were saying on Facebook, they were all black people from this community, saying that when the police showed up, they treated them like they were criminals. They physically assaulted people. They pepper sprayed them. They didn't even take witness statements at the time. And it just made me sick to my stomach. I reached out to other NAACP members and said, meet me at the spot where the young man was killed. We didn't know what we were gonna find. When we got there, the streets were completely empty. There was no sign that anybody's life had been taken. That's how wicked this system is, where you can snuff out the life of a person and you don't see any evidence of the evil that was done. The only evidence that we saw was blood on the leaves near the tree where Jamar was killed. And at that point, we just started knocking on doors, and people started coming out. And when we started talking to people, some of their voices were trembling. Some of them had tears streaming down their face. Some of them were angry and upset and traumatized about what they had witnessed. And the youngest witness that we talked to was a 10-year-old boy who was standing outside at the time when he saw the police kill Jamar Clark. And he ran back in the house and he said to his mom, "Mom, they're killing us." Imagine being 10 and having to get on a school bus after you just saw a brother in the community being killed. But that's what happened. And so through that process, what the city of Minneapolis saw and the state of Minnesota and the nation and the world saw were people who refused to give up, people who refused to ignore what happened to a young black man who was full of life. I look at these pictures that Jamar Clark's family is holding. This is a young man should still be alive today. Look at his beautiful smile. He should still be here. But because of the wickedness and the corruption in this system, they killed Jamar Clark and they thought that they were going to get away with it, just as they had done with Terrence Franklin, just as they had done with Fong Lee, just as they had done with so many other black men and boys, and even other young men of color who had been killed by the Minneapolis Police Department. And when we decided that we weren't going to go anywhere, it caused a huge uproar in the city of Minneapolis. They thought that the snow was going to stop us. We kept showing up. There were blizzards that they thought was going to keep us away. We kept showing up. They thought the police with their tear gas and their militarized weapons and their white faces was going to stop us, but we kept showing up. And some people never even left. And when it got cold, colder than it is right now, what did? We lit fires in the street. We just refused to be refused. And there were people who had never stepped foot in North Minneapolis who showed up with food, who showed up with water, who showed up with firewood, who showed up with coats and gloves and everything that we needed to sustain us for 18 days. There were black men in the community who had not even felt worthy because of how people treated them like they were expendable. But they showed up at the 4th Precinct. They kept the 4th Precinct clean. They greeted people. They felt like they had a purpose. And when I was looking at those black men who were out there, I'm thinking, why can't they be invited into society on a day-to-day basis? Why does it take a black man being killed and the community showing up for these black men to feel like they are worth something in our society? Because when the police showed up on November 15th of 2015, they treated Jamar Clark like his life wasn't worth a damn thing. And why did they feel comfortable with that? Because that is how they see black people day in and day out in the city of Minneapolis, in the state of Minnesota, as if we're expendable, as if we have no worth, as if we deserve to be pushed to the margins, as if we deserve to be the last ones hired and the first ones fired. That's how they treat us, as if we don't deserve to live in our own community, as if we don't deserve to govern our own community. That's how they treat us. But Jamar Clark became a wake-up call that we refuse to be refused to be refused. And we got strength and courage that we didn't even know that we had. When we had to take on the mayor of Minneapolis, when we had to take on the police department, when we had to take on all these elected officials and the governor, and say that we refuse to go anywhere. And literally, on I think it was December 3rd or December 4th, they showed up in the middle of the night, about 2 o'clock in the morning. And there were maybe 2 or 3 dozen people out there. And they brought bulldozers, police officers, and all kinds of stuff to force us to leave the 4th precinct. That was the only way that they could get us to go. And as somebody who was out there that night when they brought the bulldozers, I looked around at this crowd. If it had even been this many of us, they wouldn't have been able to allow us to leave. So what that says to me is that those who start in the fight, we have to be persistent and we have to finish the fight. I don't care how cold it is. I don't care how tired we are. I don't care what we have going on. We have to keep showing up. Jamar's spirit is still here. It's crying out because he never received justice. But I believe in the power of God that those police officers who were responsible, the 2 who killed him and the other ones who looked the other way, do not have rest in their spirits. I believe that they are troubled, that they are going to be held accountable in this life and the next for what they did. I also think about, even though we have seen many people killed since Jamar Clark, not only across the state of Minnesota, but specifically in the city of Minneapolis, I believe that us standing strong for those 18 days prevented many more deaths. They would have kept whitewashing the news. They would have kept pretending that they weren't killing people. But I believe that we have sparked a movement that continues to this day and only grew stronger in the aftermath of George Floyd being killed. We have ousted I don't know how many elected officials. And now we got 13 more and a mayor that's got to get their asses out of those seats so that we have people who really care about black lives, who care about the community, and who care about justice governing in the city of Minneapolis. I'm sick and tired of people like the ones who are supposed to be representing us, like Jeremiah Ellison, like Philippe Cunningham, turning their backs on the people who helped get them into office. And when I think about Jeremiah Ellison, we have called him out because he showed up at the 4th precinct. He had a gun pulled on him that made national and international headlines, and it gave him the cachet to run to become a city council member for North Minneapolis. But we're saying, where the hell have you been since then? He should be here every single year that we're celebrating the life of Jamar Clark. Period. And he should be standing up for the people of North Minneapolis. We cannot let there be any passes, I don't care what an elected official looks like. Because like we say, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. If you're going to show up in these seats, do the work or get the hell out the way. By the decisions that these people are making. And I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I want to see people who are part of this movement emerge and run in the next elections in 2021. Stand up for Jamar. Stand up for Philando. Stand up for Travis Jordan. Stand up for Thurman Blevins. Stand up for George Floyd. Stand up for Chaser Fong-Foot. Stand up for Mario Benjamin. And the names that we don't know are people who deserve justice. So we have to keep going. We have to keep standing. We have to keep lifting up Miss Irma Burns and her family. Because they bear the burden every day of Jamar not being here. Many of us are going to celebrate Thanksgiving for better or for worse, and there'll be an empty seat at their table because of the wickedness in this system. So we have to do our part, y'all. I'll never forget, 5 years ago, it stands with me every single day. It will continue to be with me for the rest of my life, knowing that Jamar Clark didn't have to die. But I will not be able to rest until we change this system, until we refuse to allow these things to continue, until the crooked cops are uprooted out of that system, and until Bob Crow takes his ass back to Hugo and stays there.
Thank you, Nikema. Before we call up our last speaker, I just want to make sure that we all know what we're doing in this street outside of these condos. Keith Ellison lives in here.
Yeah, he does.
And we know that Keith Ellison absolutely has the power to give us our demands of reopening the cases, of firing these cops, of making sure that cops and EMS cannot work together to drug people against their will. He has the power to give us community control of the police to help.
What's up, buddy?
But he hasn't done any of those things. Because like Nakima said, the fact that he's a black man does not mean that he is not for the system. He is working for a system that directly oppresses the people of this neighborhood and the people of Minneapolis, when he has the power to not do that.
Mm-hmm.
He has the power to stand with us and actually make meaningful strides for people to have rights here. Because he likes power more than he cares community.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we have to hold all of these officials accountable, Ellison, including council members, and we have to make sure that we know that they have the power to actually do something concrete instead of just telling us pretty to us. Sorry. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows what we're doing outside of these. And we're going to call up our next speaker, and that's going to be Donnie, who is Brian Quinones' grandfather.
The last time we were out in this neighborhood, Keith Ellison's neighbor called the cops on us before we were even done moving the vehicle. So we're kind of surprised it hasn't happened yet.
I'm not a politician. I'm a grandfather. 14 months ago, our lives changed. And 5 years ago, I sat and watched the news about this young man. And I feel so bad that I didn't do shit, because I was a passive ally. That's really fucking horrible what they're doing, but I didn't do anything. 14 months ago, it came to my door and slapped me in the face. Literally kicked my ass. You learn in 14 months about this system if you didn't pay attention to it before. And everything that they're out here telling you is right. And there's even more that they don't tell you. There's laws on the books that are used to protect law enforcement. And that's the only time they're ever used.
Mm-hmm.
And when you request to have a case open, they delay you, and leave it to that. There's a thing on the books, so we can't do nothing. It needs to change. Vote, I voted. I'm gonna tell you all this. Biden becomes president, when they do whatever they do to confirm all these electoral college votes, and they say we're swearing him in, hold his ass accountable. Yeah. There's a history of taking the vote and denying the people.
Mm-hmm.
That's common knowledge. We know that. If he appoints Amy Klobuchar as his attorney general, he's sending a message to you and to me and to everybody else that he doesn't give a shit. And it's going to be another 4 years of ignoring what we're here for. I'm not a politician, but I know what the vote does. I'm a grandfather. For the last 14 months, every day that I get up, I shed tears for my grandson, for my granddaughter, for my great-grandson. This is no life. These folks know what I'm talking about. I've met their daughter, or Danielle, spend time with her. Great young lady. And I see the pain in her face every day. You want to do something else besides being in the streets and marching? Get active. Get active politically. Write a letter to the DOJ. Okay? Department of Justice. Write a letter to the... Yo. Alright? And ask them to investigate the Hennepin County District Attorney's Office and Mike Freeman. But investigate him. And do it the right way. This guy's wrong. This guy's wrong for his position, he's wrong for his job, and he's wrong to people of color. Keith Ellison. I've had a long-standing opinion of Keith Ellison, that Keith Ellison hops from agenda to whatever he can do to move himself forward without really getting a whole lot done.
Say that.
So, I'm out here today as a family member. I'm out here today to support Jamar Clark and his family, because that's my fight. That's my fight. Jamar Clark deserves justice. Brian Quinones deserves justice. The way to get it is to do what you're doing here and what I'm doing now after 14 months. I was stupid. I have 8 grandkids and 4 great-grandkids, and they're all children of color. You think I don't worry about shit every day now? Because I know what happens. And I know how they do their shit. Thank you for being out here for the fight. But write letters. Go above these local Minneapolis positions, because they're going to pass the buck to the next guy. Or the next level. Or the next this. Or the next that. Because that's what's been happening all these years. When people go to the courts or they go to fight for justice for their family members, they get passed around. Nothing ever happens. And it's going to take forever for attorneys or whoever to get information. But you get passed around. It's pass the buck. And Mike Freeman's good at it. When you write your letter, ask this question. The judge in this upcoming George Floyd case decided Mike Freeman was sloppy and removed him from this case in his office. I'm here to put this to you. If he was sloppy with George Floyd's case, how goddamn sloppy was he before that? There's family members out here that suffer every day because of how sloppy Mike Freeman was, is. It's a fight. I appreciate all of you. My fight for my family, my fight for Brian, my fight for all families. You got it. You got it. Can you hear me? Yeah. All right. Yeah. So, again, I fight for families. I fight for all families. It's the worst club you can be a member of, because the price it costs you to join is the loss of a family member. But it's the greatest club you can be a part of because of the passion, because of the fight that it brings out of you. These are the most wonderful people I've met. I've lost friends I've grown up with and replaced them with family members, and I'm a happier man. But it will take this, and it will take letters, and go above local Minneapolis politicians. Go as high as you can go, and hold Joe Biden accountable to honor your vote and to do what you voted him into office to do. Otherwise, he's no better than the piece of shit that's leaving.
You know you're guilty when your drinking actually gets worse because of everything you did in your past years of office. Hi, my name is Sam. I'm an organizer with the Twin Cities Coalition for Justice for Jamar.
Yes, sir!
How many people got a text message about being here today? Did you get a text message about being here today? Okay, so that was like not enough people. So I'm gonna tell you, if you get out your cell phones real quick, and I can find the number. Okay, if you get out your cell phone, I'm gonna give you the number real quick. Because we're about building this movement. We built this movement so much in the past 5 years that we've actually seen a lot more progress in cases than a lot of people have seen in other parts of the country. So we're about building the movement. So I'm gonna give you this number, 612. Again, that's 612-453. Again, that's 453. And then the last is 3152. And so what you're gonna do is you're gonna text that number right now to get signed up for text alerts. And that's what you're gonna text that number is the letter T as in Tom, C as in cat, C as in cat, and then the number 4, and then the letter J for Jamar, of course. Twin Cities Coalition for Justice for Jamar. So you should all, in maybe a minute or so, get a text back, and that'll confirm that you're on the list. So again, that's number 612-453-3152, and you're gonna just text the letters T, C, C, the number 4, and then J. And that's gonna get you signed up for text alerts, because we're about building the movement. That's what we've been doing for the past 5 years, because we know that the movement needs to be led by the people most impacted, meaning black folks and brown folks and even white working class folks. We know that we can't just come out when somebody is killed. We have to have a plan. And our plan is for community control of the police. Because with community control of the police, we can actually hold these pigs accountable. That's what this is about. It's been a long term of the black liberation movement, and it's not going anywhere. It's getting stronger. And victories were won this past election cycle in holding police accountable and via police accountability councils in at least 3 or 4 different cities across the country. And you know where that was at? It was where there was uprisings at as well. So we can do the voting that we need to do, and if you want to vote, that's cool, because we are going to have to vote when it comes to community control of the police to get it enacted. But we also need to back it up with fire. And whatever that fire looks like to you, we unite with that. We're talking about words of fire, fires to keep us warm in our hearts and outside, but whatever we need to do when we say by any means necessary, we mean that. And that's why we believe in working with the people that we work with and getting people involved in the movement, because we know we can build a better future together. Because it's not coming from Keith Ellison or his son or his dynasty of politicians, or from a Biden, or from white women who were killing people before other politicians and people like Kamala Harris. She can be whatever color she wants to be, and she thinks she knows Tupac and she's still going to his concerts or whatever. He's still alive, because that's how out of touch. It's not about her smoking weed, it's about her being out of touch with the people. She don't even know if Tupac's alive or dead. So anyway, we're gonna get on the road here. If you didn't have a car, or you walked here, there was only like 1 or 2 people who walked. So come over here, and we're gonna try to get you a ride. We're gonna open up windows.
So
If you are riding with people, you should open up the windows. It's COVID. Unless you're living
last
with
time
those
we were
people,
here,
it really is safer.
his neighbors called the cops within 5 minutes of us standing out here, so it's a nice change of pace that they didn't do it this time.
We're gonna go down here on Lyndale, take a right on Plymouth, and we're just gonna go down to the memorial site at Plymouth and James.
Yeah, I'll catch you all
It's
soon.
by the Elks Lodge.